Welcome to Hank's Place. Grace is God's favor freely given us. God's grace supernaturally empowers us to be and to live as God has intended. It's an expression of His unconditional love. Experiencing God's grace always leaves us better than it found us. Grace, Jesus revealed that God sits upon a throne of grace, not judgment, confirmed in Hebrews 4:16. Some folk do come short of God's matchless grace, however, by believing that though we're saved by grace, now we have to maintain our position with God through right living and commandment keeping. This is not true. Yes, we are saved by grace through faith, Ephesians 2:8, but that's just the beginning of the good news, dear friend. Dr. Paul Ellis, in writing of God's grace, points out that it's God's grace that saves us and forgives us, justifies us and raises us to a new life. His grace is not just for sinners, for His grace both saves us and keeps us. That's 1 Peter 5:10. It's His grace that builds us up and empowers us to good works. His grace that makes us fruitful and prospers us and enables us to reign in life. In the Gospels, we see Jesus preaching good news to the poor. He's loving sinners and forgiving and healing those who had done nothing to deserve God's grace. You see, He revealed a God who loves us like a father and asks only that we trust Him. Grace is a free gift. We cannot earn it, but we can come short or fall from it by trying to keep the law. Those check boxes of do's and don'ts in religion that we've all struggled with at one time or another. I've heard it said many times, for instance, that God has given us His grace in order to keep all His commandments, starting with the Big Ten that came through Moses. Moses? Back then? Really? The law? No, this is a mixed grace message, for it puts the emphasis then upon you and what you do, not what Jesus has accomplished for you. If you think of yourself as a servant of God rather than His beloved son or daughter, then I suggest you are still short of the abundance of God's grace that's available to you. So, does God give us His grace in order to do good works? God gives us His grace because He loves us, period. There's no pressure, only the freedom to be who God made you and I to be. Are there any limits to this grace of God? Well, John 1:16 says, "For of His fullness we have all received, and grace upon grace." He's saying we are receiving limitless grace from the fullness of God's supply. Grace upon grace means that God can bless us with wave after wave of grace, like ocean waves that will never run out. If we think we have a handle on the grace of God, believe me, we don't. His love and grace surpasses all knowledge. Whatever we imagine His grace to be, His grace is greater still. So, allow God this day to flood your life with His amazing grace. You'll come alive.